Hey, what's happening?
Hey, everybody, back again. And
Back
not only
again.
that,
Yeah,
Chris, we got worms again. We just got through talking about worms, and hell if we ain't got worms again
yeah. It must be. We're gonna close out the year with a bunch of worms.
with worms. We're gonna have to
They
be
should call them.
dewormed.
Yeah, I know. I think they should. There should be a change of terminology to parasite. I think it just sounds more malicious, right, than worm. But we'll go with worm. Simple, one syllable
Simple.
word.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So what we're talking about this session is the use of AI as an entire system for building attacks and exploits and that sort of deal. That's what
yeah.
we're going to
So
be talking about. So go ahead.
exactly, and they give credit where credit's due. This comes off of a report from Palo's Unit 42 group that they did put out a paper, and Bob will share out everything that we
Yeah.
have on this about the discovery of what we're going to be talking about today, which is two malicious LLMs. It's kind of scary. It's not even kind of. It's
Yeah.
actually really scary stuff.
Yeah. Well, we knew. I mean, we've been talking about the fact that they were going to do this for a
Yep,
year now.
just a matter of time, right?
It was always just a matter of time, and the point being is it's gone far enough that they have product names for this. The the managed service provider on the dark side of the universe, those people who supply these tools and build these tools and charge for the use of these tools. So the vendors on the dark side of the equation have gotten to the point now where they actually have versions and brand names and product names for these things, right? One of them being Worm GPT, the other being, Y
Yeah,
GPT. I always think
yeah, and
Kawasaki.
I mean they got pricing models and everything. I mean, I'm wondering if they're cold calling some threat actors out there trying to get them to subscribe to this. But yeah, they have subscription plans. Yeah, I mean, you can
Well,
pay by the month or get a lifetime subscription. So,
yeah,
choose your poison.
yeah. So, and I mean, to be clear, why is this a big deal? Well, these are actual large language models. They're not just broken. They're not jailbroken large
Right.
language models. These are purpose-built large language models. In other words, they have poured the training material into these to enhance the user's ability to attack, do malicious activities without having to know anything about how to actually do malicious activities at a hands-on level. I mean, it's basically democratizing the use of attack
It is
vectors.
taking it a step further, right? So, like, early, when ransomware, it's been a while, right? But when it got kicked off, right? I mean, a lot of it was people that had to have a technical skill set to do all that stuff. They didn't
Right.
have toolkits and people telling them and whatever to do. And then you kind of evolved into where you had more of the ransomware operator model, where you had some type of organization that would provide the infrastructure, provide the toolkit, provide instructions, even provide, hey, this is what you can do, this is what you can't do, and all these types of things now. But you had to be part of that to gain access to that.
Right.
And you obviously, there was revenue shared amongst this. Now, in this particular situation, it's different. Here's a platform or one or two platforms that you can subscribe to
Yeah.
that can give you all the advice and information and everything that you need to do this without really having much of a technical skill set at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly right. They've taken all the grunt work out of it. You don't have to really worry about keeping your scripts up to date or anything else. They'll keep the engine up to date. You're subscribed. It's platform as a service. They have a platform as a service, and that's what it is that they're selling access to. Yeah, I thought it was pretty cheap. $220 for lifetime access to Worm
It-
GPT is,
yeah, I
that seemed
mean,
economical as hell. Really.
yeah, in no way are we endorsing this or telling you to go
Oh, hell
subscribe.
no.
But for legal
No,
purposes,
no.
right? Hey,
Yeah.
this guy told us it's a good deal. We can go out
No,
there and
no,
do it.
you're right
No,
about that.
there is no discount code Chris
Yeah.
Bob on that platform, so this
There's
doesn't
no
happen.
promo codes. There are no promo codes. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think one of the things that kind of stuck out to me on this was that it's providing quality content.
Right.
So, like, if we look at it purely from the phishing aspect of things, which this thing provides, it provides a lot of information and detail for phishing, to where it really gives you the ability to create very professional content for your BECs, so you can trick people. So it makes it much harder for the human being, the human eye, to detect if it's a fish or not. It kind of eliminates any grammatical issues, logo issues, all of that type of formatting issues, all that stuff. This thing kind of figures out a way to to give you that content with none of those risks to you as an attacker. So you have something that will have a much more higher success of working than you did before when you had to put it together yourself.
Yeah, no grammatical errors. That the language looks normal. These engines or these platforms are able to go and find out. Okay, well, this is the person we're going to work at targeting, and these are the people that person knows, because it'll go through social media, it'll go through LinkedIn, it'll go through all of those sources, pull all that data together in some form or fashion, build a tree that it can say, okay, well, if you're going to fish this person, you need to make it look legitimate. Here's a tree of people that they know. Use that as reinforcement material. A lot of times when you get an email, it's got an email chain behind it of people talking back and forth until it gets to you to say, well, we need you to make a decision on this.
Yeah.
And if it's able to fabricate all of that backstory, that's reasonable looking, especially when you're just scanning it because you just want to get on to the next thing you need to do, then it's able to make that happen in a lot more legitimate way. So, that makes it easier. And not only that, they have natural language ability to instruct this thing to go do what it needs to do. So instead of having to go create a PowerShell script, let's say to encrypt a PDF, they can say, hey, create a PowerShell script to encrypt PDF. They don't have to know how to do it. They don't know how any of that shit works. It's just they say that and they get what they need, and they keep on going. But so yeah, we've heard about these phishing attacks where they're looking a lot more realistic because they have this dialogue chain sort of in the middle of it, right? That makes it look a hell of a lot more legitimate. So,
and I hear about it. It's like somebody's like, hey, this is really strange to me. I got this email and it's this DocuSign thing and it's talking about something, and it just so happens that I am involved in whatever this is, a loan closing or whatever the situation is, and this thing's kind of talking about that. And I'm sure, it's not hard these days to pick up on. A lot of our lives, even for those of us that work hard not to have it out there, a lot of it is out there. Just
right.
think about how Bob and I and other people that we see a lot on the road, how many of those people are just telling people I'm on a plane to here, I'm a plane to here, I'm a plane there, whatever, or my wife's with me or whatever. Not to pick on people, but that information's out there.
That's right.
So if you couple that with what this thing's doing, you can come up with some pretty easy scenarios to get people really to go, well, hey, I'm expecting this email.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 click, and then it's too late.
Yeah. By the way, I don't need any gift cards. Chris and I don't need any gift cards. So if you get that email, it's not us. We're not.
That's when I remember it was, I think it was earlier this year, an employee got one of those texts as if it was me.
Right.
And I said, I've hit the big time. Somebody's finally imitating me to get those gift cards. But, it's interesting too. This seems to be, how would I put it? It's almost like cheating, and if I was in, that's kind of the thing. I think 5 or 6 years ago in in my opinion, when people were hacking, they felt like, hey, look, I'm actually doing some work. It's a challenge. I'm trained in security. I'm doing this type of stuff.
Right.
And it was a challenge to them that they were successful at doing. Some of them were, or whatever. But this is like changing the whole scope of things to where it's like, hey, it's not even making it a challenge anymore.
Right.
And to me, it's kind of diluting, the credibility to call it that. I know I used to get in trouble if I use some positive terms about, cyber criminals, but that's really what, to me, it is. It's kind of diluting it, right? It's kind of like,
it's lowering the common denominator of what it takes to actually be successful. So you can be, just two dudes and a dog and pull it off instead of, somebody who's actually spent some time technically earning your chops to do it.
Because I remember it was funny because, when I first got getting involved in instant response, there was the ransomware encryption and there was the full disk encryption where the guys would just go in there and they would use something simple to just encrypt your files or encrypt your disk or really do that. It wasn't ransomware.
Mm-hmm.
And if you mentioned to the ransomware guys, if you put them in the same category as the full disk encryption guys, they would get pissed off about it. They'd be like that. They would get upset. Say, no, that's not. Those guys are like amateurs. They're like just doing the simplest stuff. Don't get us with that. Don't put us in the same category as those guys. And so they would feel, basically like you offended them.
Yeah.
And
They got to be really pissed now.
yeah, you would think so, right? But who knows? I mean, maybe the
Yeah.
money's just so much that they don't
Yeah.
care, man. They're in
Right.
their boats, their yachts, their Ferraris, or whatever. So
Well, I
who the hell
mean, this
knows?
has been what it's done is democratize that whole idea of cybercrime, right? And now you don't have to be an elite to get it done anymore. You can be in, like I said, lowers the common denominator. The other thing it does is it just speeds up the ability for them to do these kinds of things too. I mean, having your own LLMs, we know on the productive side of the universe, we use them to speed up and be faster and more efficient. Well, they get the same benefit of that right on the dark side of the moon. So, it's just making them a lot faster.
Yeah, I mean, somebody's probably saying like, "What's the lesson here?" Well, the lesson here is number one is that, I mean, there's going to be the attacks are going to continue. You're probably going to even see a higher volume of attacks just because now you're going to have people that probably couldn't get past first base on figuring out how to do this stuff. Now that kind of the path is laid out for them. So as long as they know to even halfway do prompts, they're going to be able to get through. And there's just the quality of what's going to be out there as far as all these things to either trick you into getting credentials or whatever the case may be, so that if you're talking to whether it's your clients, your end users, or whomever you're working with,
right.
I mean, you got to spell it out like this. I mean, you don't have to get too technical, but you can tell them, hey, look, you got, because everybody today knows what Chat GPT is.
Yeah.
Everybody knows what GPTs. They know, but basically, so you're not talking a foreign language to them, but you can say now, well, think about how easy it is for you to write an email with the help of Microsoft Copilot. Well, now these attackers have the exact same thing to help them write an email to trick you into doing that.
Yeah.
So that's you gotta make them more paranoid than they already are.
Right.
That's just the
Nature of the beast.
The nature of the beast. That's the fact of the matter. So that's what I would say.
I mean, just to give you an idea, there's over 1,000 plus users using right now that we know of. That's reported to be over 1,000 plus users between these two GPTs, these two LLMs, I should say. And there's active communities on Telegram. It's a community system, and there are active communities there sharing what they're learning as they kind of go about this, sharing attack techniques. So again, used to, like you were pointing out, when the professionals, they didn't share anything, dude. You had to figure it out on your own. It's not so much anymore when you brought down to the common denominator. They're crowdsourcing information now, right? Because it's just more broadly accepted. I mean, that's just what's going on. So
that's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big deal is the use of these GPT models, and they're training them up to be very specific. The reason this even matters to us as security professionals, like, okay, so how do we're going to have to evolve techniques, tactics, systems that are able to detect things like velocity of attacks. You know what I mean? Which we mean how many transactions per second are occurring is going to wind up being a big indicator of whether or not you're actually being attacked, even if it's not an attack vector that wouldn't rate a normal attack vector because it's not an IOC that's known. That's not going to be the kind of telemetry we're going to have to be able to judge on. We're going to have to be able to say, well, we've had 17,000 activities at this micro level in the last 4 minutes, which is a 7,000% increase over the last 5 months. That's the kind of way we're going to start thinking, right? It's going to be like velocity statistics to help us out.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, in the authentication, I mean, people need to be figuring. I mean, if we're already behind the times on authentication and making that stuff. I mean, if you start to eliminate these people's abilities to harvest credentials and use those, that's a big part of it. I mean, I'm not saying that's the only part of it, the silver bullet, but that's a big deal, especially in the SMB space. You still see a kind of authentication as being more basic than it should be.
Yeah, and again, that's just what we're up against. Again, by the way, these LLMs do not have all the guardrails in them that our LLMs that we use on the productivity side. There are no guardrails. I mean, they quite literally have burned the guardrails down, so they can ask it to do any nasty thing they want to. So that obviously that's how that's kind of created. So I mean, I think some of the immediate impacts that we need to be thinking about are things like perfect grammar doesn't equal a legitimate email anymore. So that rule's got to get into your head that just because everything's spelled correctly, the training that we need to give our users has got to include the fact that there's not going to be some dead giveaways anymore. like
Yeah, and it's
grammar
not
or
going to
spelling.
be a situation where it's just like a brand new email, right? You're going to be maybe it's going to feel like you're inserted into an existing thread that's been
Yeah,
going on for days or weeks.
right.
So, just don't assume when somebody says, "Hey, copying Bob to have his approval on this." Oh,
Yeah,
well, I'm copied in. It can't be a fish.
right.
It is. It
Yep.
could very well be.
Yeah, you need to enable strict DMARC. That's another way you can kind of control this, right? Since so much of this is coming through on an email front, you can do that. You also need to look at your SSH hardening. You need to IP allow lists. You might want to think about IP allow lists and geofencing a lot more seriously to help you as much as possible. Granted, doesn't fix everything. They can find a way to get this inside of a geofence, but the bottom line
Yeah,
is you just got to tighten up as much as you can on that, right, Chris?
that's exactly right.
Yeah,
Layered. Yep.
yeah.
All right.
And
Well,
test
good
your
stuff.
damn backups. By the way, last statement: test your damn back. Now, I'm not mean go and restore from them periodically, so that you know
Yep.
that your backups actually working. I mean, if you
Yeah,
can
and
do
then
some
and
of
then
that,
go check to make sure they're secure and
right, right,
rotate credentials. I mean, the topic for another day, but
yeah,
how many times we've heard actual cloud backups themselves being compromised
yeah,
as a
100%.
result of poor hygiene when it comes to credentials and so forth. So for
All right.
sure.
Yeah, we'll drop
All
all
right.
this again. We'll drop all the information we got out so you can go take a look at it. It'll be an article on LinkedIn. And I'll loop Chris in, but go take a look at it and just be aware that this is going on. It's very interesting to me. And by the way, it won't be the end of the story. This is by far the beginning of this story. It's surfaced to the point now where when you got product names, that's when you should start talking about it. So I think it's
For
got to
sure.
that point. So all right. Thanks everybody. We'll see you next time.